The ritual of philosophy and its physical consequences. So, um, let's try to make contact with the Sprachspiele of Wittgenstein. So he just jumps into this notion when he's pointing out this sort of Hegelian situation where there's no shores anywhere from his claim that the problem of the one and the many, or of the general sense, the Socratic sense of language, yields this result. There is no essence of language. There is no one. We can't point out one thing that makes all he gives a curious in fact, I don't totally comprehend it, so we're trying to work towards it. As he gives the curious example of a saying back, they used to have, and I think they still do to some extent, but they claim to have another more complicated method of doing these things now. But they used to do things like have a model of the meter, or a model of the whatever all the other measurements, weights and measures are. I think at the University of Paris, but I'm not sure exactly where. There were in other places also. But he makes this claim that this one that would stand as the exemplar, that would stand as the one that originally says what the meter is not a meter long, and it's totally of a different status than any meter that would be come up to that qualification, that would be measured by that meter stick, by the yardstick, I wanted to say. And I suppose even the metaphor and any following sort of complex analogies and metonymies in a way spring from that exemplar too, that meter, the physical meter stick, which he says isn't actually a meter. The sense is like each game is we can't say why we put these it's as though part of the thing game is the fact that we're doing this. So like part of the thing meter and measuring according to meters. I mean, of course, I know there's like all kinds of other forms of measurements, biblical lengths that everybody talks about, but and that all sorts of funny arguments are based on the pretense that this is like a modern decimal accurate, or like, accurate to some. Apparently they even claim to be able to make these calculations in something like the way, I don't know, that they made the mathematics of Planck in some connection with the idea of photons or some kind of light, can tell you the theory about the so-called Planck level, which then apparently was empirically shown, I think, to be false, according to these new claims that they have data from a lower level, or for some other reason they've come to that conclusion. I think just because Planck based it on light unnecessarily, and that just because light had this quality of not showing itself to be in a frame of reference. And then they found it, then, Einstein and so on founded a lot of stuff on that, but and Planck goes along with it, I think, and then that's why it turned out to be wrong. But you see, they're playing all these complex games, and then somebody says, well, let's change the rules a little bit and do it in a different way, and then you move, it's like the move from Newton to Einsteinian physics, but this is just because somebody thinks I'd rather look at this stuff than that stuff. It's like it's fundamentally not. There's nothing that makes it either relative or not relative. It's just that somebody's doing something. And so, taken this way, I suppose what Wittgenstein's saying is one of the games would be collecting things and calling them languages. And what actually is that? And then, we have French, and we have German, and we have English, Russian, and they're all supposed to be languages. And then the Greeks had a different word for language, although it's not clear whether it came in only as a later conscious addition. Glossa, as in glossolalia, than for just speech, which is originally logos. The original monist sense of the word logos, no, not first as though identified with Christ, or as though in the beginning was the Word, and not as though identical to some sort of Aristotelian / post-Aristotelian thing, which is most commonly defined as the art of definition, as it appears in the I think in the Port Royal logic, but you have to check that. But in a bunch of that was sort of like the most common single definition, and then people offered all kinds of other definitions. But the logos became something, speech, and then there's this other thing, apparently glossa, or language. This is sort of a funny thing. In French, for instance, French as parler as against what is it, lingu or something like that? I don't know, but not just speech, but something else. And then maybe the something else was originally the subject matter of some people that were theorizing, and they created this notion. But on the other hand, then we must say that people, they learned to speak German, they learned to speak French. So maybe that's the origin of the way this language game began and what it originally meant. And things like this. This could lead us into different questions about what we're actually doing when we speak about any kind of categorized thing or behave in any way that falls under a name. So that Wittgenstein, he really drives into a sort of a deranged avenue, or then he's questioned even to say of himself, what is this thing you're calling the Sprachspiel, which is supposed to explicate what you've just shown, like the problem with the this sort of naive feeling like there is some you could say what the essence is, and there's this sort of bouncing back and forth between this notion of the Sprachspiel, or the language games, and the notion of the essence, so that it's almost suggested that the game and its continuation is the essence, so that you're sort of whoever playing that game is in the essence of it, and that's the there being the essence of it, but in some way that's his art is to sort of like in an Alexander Calder sort of way. His art is to sort of make these sculptures where he has a particular notion about where he should consider the moment when description has come to its limit, and the moment when one is hasn't had said too much.